We are finally live. All right. We had some technical problems here, but we're live. And welcome to the APTER MAG. And many people have said to me, whatever happened to the podcast, Bill Apter? So that was the podcast I did with Tricky Nicky, as you know, and I want to thank him for all the weeks that we did that together. But we decided to discontinue it. So rather than Is Wrestling Fixed? I didn't know it was broken. My book, the title of that, people just said, why don't you call it the APTER MAG? Because everybody calls what you did the APTER MAGs. Now, I don't know if you know that, where the title, the APTER MAGs, actually came from, because I don't want to say I took offense or take offense when people call them the APTER MAGs. But that term, the APTER MAGs, came from my friend Dave Meltzer. Yeah, the Dave Meltzer. He used to call them the APTER MAGs in his Wrestling Observer newsletter. And I used to call him and I say, Dave, please, I'm part of a great group of people that put this magazine together. Editors, photographers, Stu Sachs, Craig Peters, Brandy Mankiewicz, so many other great people. I said, you can't call them the APTER MAGs. It's Stanley Weston's magazines. So he said, well, you're the guy who's out in the trenches. You're the guy that everybody sees. So I'm going to call them the APTER MAGs. So every time I go, and no matter where I go to conventions, wrestling shows, hey, Bill, love the APTER MAGs. That's what people associate it. They associate me with the APTER MAGs. So why not, at this point, welcome to the APTER MAGs. Now, I want to let you know that all the opinions here on the APTER MAG, which is going to be a weekly video podcast, and hopefully YouTube will let us on time next time. They must have had a load of traffic today not because of Rusev Day, but because of, no matter where you live, you saw the millions and millions of people here in Philadelphia. Congratulations to the Eagles. Before we get into the magazine format, I probably should not. Now, I will be answering some of your questions later on, but I want to stick to a magazine format here. I want to talk about things that are going on. And I have a special guest waiting for me to call on the phone. And since we're running 15 minutes late, I want to get to him very quickly. But when we first moved to Pennsylvania from New York, I'm not a big football fan at all. And I didn't know who the team here in Philadelphia was. It wasn't important to me. So one of our neighbors knocked on the door when we moved in, and they said, I can get you concert tickets. I can get you Eagles tickets. And I said, you know what? I have every one of their record albums. I have Hotel California, every one of them. So let me say a big duh. Okay, so as with the podcast that I used to do with Tricky Nicky, and as with the magazine format, we're going to talk about headlines. We're going to do ratings. We're going to have a classic interview, and we're going to have a current interview too. So let me call. Hopefully, he's still home, and there's no gimmicks here. This is cell phone, and we're going to put him on my speaker here. And sometimes we're just going to call. Is this? We are live on YouTube now on the APTER MAGs. Is this the hurricane?
Yes, it is. The one and the only blowing through North Carolina right now.
All right. Hurricane Helms, hang on a minute. Let me put you on our giant speaker. Are you there? Can you hear us, Hurricane Helms?
Yeah, I can hear you guys perfectly.
All right. We can hear you now perfectly as well. Welcome to the first edition of the APTER MAG, a new video podcast. And let me just check, because we're video, make sure that my comb over is right over there. Are you wearing your mask?
Always, 24/7.
24/7. So one of the things again, welcome. And you are the APTER MAG interview for today. One of the things in pro wrestling that is very sacred and probably totally impossible to do is keep a secret. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally.
Totally, especially in these days of electronic media, correct?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, it's super hard.
So how did Hurricane Helms and everyone around the Royal Rumble keep it hush that you were going to be in the Royal Rumble? I mean, what's up with that?
Well, here's how you keep a secret. You don't tell nobody. That's the first rule. You don't tell nobody. And it was a hard secret to keep. You know, I was very excited.
Wait, slow down just a little bit. We're picking you up, but you're talking so fast here, they may not be able to process it. Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I was saying, you know, it was kind of hard to keep that secret from my friends. I was super excited about it. It's my first time in a WWE ring since 2010. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we just didn't tell anybody. I went through the airport with a hoodie on. I had a scarf wrapped around my face. They flew me into a different airport than the other talents flew into.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah, my woman went with me to make it more difficult, though. This is a funny story you'll enjoy. My woman was determined to go, my woman Karen. She's never seen me in WWE, and we got together after my WWE run. She was determined to go, you know, and she's around 5'10", beautiful blonde. She stands out anyway.
I would think so.
I'm trying to be incognito, so this obviously is going to make it more difficult. So she bought a dark wig, glasses. We're just in full disguise, espionage all day long, and we just made it work.
You felt like it was Mission Impossible. Now, how long ago, before the Royal Rumble, how long was it before that you actually got the call? And were you surprised to get the call?
No, I wasn't surprised. I think I was on a list of people to be on the Rumble for several years. So whether it was injury or me working with other companies, it just never. And I mean, I've maintained a good relationship with WWE. I actually recorded a couple of different things with the network earlier this year. It was either in January, it actually may have been but within the last few months. You know, so I got a good relationship with him there. So I wasn't super surprised at the call. But I was super excited. And the confirmation was that week. You know, I think there was a list of people, and then they decided they wanted surprises to be me and Ray. And I think there was going to be one other, but then they decided that me and Ray would be enough. And I think it turned out to be one of the best Rumbles in quite a few years, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, first of all, you and Ray, so it was two masked guys. There were no non-masked surprises.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
All right. So you're backstage. You haven't been back in WWE in how long?
2010.
Wow.
When I left.
So tell us what the feeling was backstage. Who did you run into, and did you run into Vince McMahon?
Yeah, I saw everybody, you know, but for the first couple hours, we were hit on a bus. You know, there's so many people backstage, so many opportunities for, I guess, pictures to be taken and stuff like that. So we were hit away on they had a luxury tour bus, and we were very comfortable. It wasn't like we were in a box or anything. But they hit us away, so the boys didn't know. Nobody knew we were there. You know, only a few certain people knew we were there. And they would come out to the bus to talk to us. And then maybe an hour before showtime, they stuck us in the building. And then that was a really feel-good moment, just seeing the guys, just, you know, the moment of, is that who I think it is? And then realizing that we are who they think we are. And they're just positive feedback from everybody, positive response. You know, so many friends that I hadn't seen in a while, and a lot of new talent that I'd never met, and were super excited about meeting me. So it was a great, you know, just a great experience.
Yeah. Now, so even as close as you are to Matt Hardy, he had no clue?
No, Matt, I didn't tell anybody. You know, that's the. I think Matt had an idea. I think somebody on the inside buzzed him, but you know, it didn't come from me. You know, when they asked me to keep the secret, I stuck to my word and said I won't tell anybody. And people in the business generally know, you know, Shane Helms' word means something. And so I didn't tell anybody. I promised them that I wouldn't, so I didn't.
Now, was this your first Royal Rumble?
Oh, no. I had the real famous spot where I tried to choke slam Steve Austin and Triple H.
Right.
And this Rumble is actually kind of, you know, a throwback to that spot, which is why I went after John Cena. Because if I'm going to try to duplicate that spot with, you know, in that Rumble it was the two biggest stars, or two of the biggest stars, you know, I was going to have to go after Godzilla again, and that's what I did.
Now,
I think it was my fourth Rumble.
Now you were
fifth. It could be fifth, but I think it was fourth.
You were there on a historic night because this was the first time ever that the ladies had their own Royal Rumble. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I sure did. I was impressed. I know there was a lot of pressure for those girls to deliver. I think the only obstacle for a couple of girls was that some of them were so short. Yeah. It was a little difficult to get over that top rope, but I really feel like that's the only blemish, and that's kind of being nitpicky. Other than that, I think there was a lot of innovative spots, a lot of cool moments. You know, I was really impressed with Amber Moon. Of course, the winner, Asuka. You know, it's pronounced different ways almost.
I know. I pronounced it at the beginning, and I was corrected, Oscar. And somebody said she's not with Men on a Mission. It's not the same.
Yeah. Her, you know, Amber Moon was good. You know, there were so many of those girls. A couple of moments, you know, Beth Phoenix and Nia Jax going at it. That was real cool.
What about Lita? Lita looked like she hasn't missed a step. She was incredible.
Yeah, she looked great. I thought Trish Stratus looked great.
Yeah.
When Trish and Mickie James started going back at it again, that was a throwback, and they really delivered. They both have, you know, really polished work. So there was a lot of good stuff. A lot of good moments came out of that Rumble.
So now that you were back there and you got the whole feeling of what's going on, and I know you're a student and you still follow WWE. So the WWE title is going to be AJ Styles defending against Nakamura, which is a dream match for so many people. But who would you like to see for the Universal title with Brock Lesnar defending? With Strowman?
Strowman or Roman, I guess, would be the two guys. You know, that's you know, it's WrestleMania, so WrestleMania's got to be the big dogs. You know, and Strowman or Roman, Roman. Has to be one of those two, you know, or three-way. So
yeah, possibility. Some of you fans that are in the chat room right now, if you have a question for the Hurricane, and Zach McDonald said, "Is that Hurricane Helms, Mr. Apter?" It certainly is. And Zach, do you have a question you'd like to ask the Hurricane, or anybody out there who'd like to ask the Hurricane a question? I've got one for you, of course. Tell us what you're doing these days and where fans can see you.
Well, my social media accounts are all Shane Helms Com, you know, at Shane Helms Com, and that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, wherever you want to find out about me. And, you know, I mean, I still wrestle quite a lot, still go all over the world, you know. Within the last few months, Canada, Malaysia, you know, I just agreed to a tour of New Zealand coming up and Australia. So, you know, I stay rather busy. Once I left TNA, it was like the floodgates just opened for me again. Very blessed. You know, it's been a great career. This is my actually 30th year in the industry.
30 years.
30 years. So it's been a blessing for me, you know, just to still, after all these years, for people to still want to see me. And, you know, for the pop that I got at that Rumble was one of the biggest of my career. So, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have imagined that a couple years ago. You know, you're going to go out there and in a Rumble following John Cena. You know, he went out before me. He was the entrant before me, and Cena's ovation, whether it's yay or boos, is always thunderous. So the ovation after him, if it's bad, people are going to notice that.
Right.
And so, I was, there was a little bit of, not necessarily concern, but there was a little voice in my head like, man, I hope this Philly crowd likes me. And man, that was literally one of the pops of the night, So I can't thank Philly enough. Philly is going to have a special place in my heart for a while.
Well, you know what went on in Philly today? We had the big parade with millions of people coming to see the Super Bowl champions, the Eagles.
Yeah, and so this is how great Philly got over with me. Like, if you'd have asked me a couple of weeks ago who I was pulling for in the Super Bowl, it'd have been the Patriots.
That's what most people said, because Philly was the underdog, and man, we really pulled it out.
Yeah, I would have pulled for the Patriots. I've been a big Brady Belichick fan for years. I've been a Redskins fan my whole life, so it would have been hard to cheer for the Eagles. But what turned me was how great that Philly crowd treated me at the Rumble.
Yeah, they were wonderful to you. I know that.
So I couldn't pull against the Eagles because of that. I had to return the love.
Well, I'm glad you did. Teddy Two Stone Hart, who's one of our regular listeners here, said, "Can you ask Shane, did he ever wrestle Chris Candido?" Good question.
No. We were in. I want to say that we had a brief overlap in WCW. Or either he was there right before I got there. I got there in '99, so somebody might have to fact check me on that.
Okay, all right, we will do that. We have a lot of checkers here.
I've met him, but no, never anything in the ring.
Okay, Zach McDonald says, Hurricane, what is your take on the new Cruiserweight Division in WWE?
Well, I think they need a champion right now, and I think I'd look really good in purple.
Oh, okay.
They got a lot of good talent there. They got to have guys. They got a lot of good talent. I don't think anybody doubts that. They need stars though. They need people to. The guys need opportunities to become stars as well. So it's a little bit on the company, and it's a little bit on the guys stepping up and really exerting and enforcing and expressing who they are to the WWE universe.
Right. Good answer. Travis Volts, who's one of our regular reporters and does rankings for us, he has, had things been different in WCW, did Sugar Shane have a future if WCW would have continued?
Without a doubt, they were giving me a very solid push there at the end. I was probably getting one of the best pushes in the company. They were building that whole Cruiserweight division around me. So, I think I would have had a great future there. So, and that Sugar Shane style was, that's the hybrid style that you see all the time now these days. So
a lot of guys emulate what you started out doing.
Yeah, it kind of gets lost in history because of how over the Hurricane character got. Even people that I work with kind of forget, how I wrestled as Sugar Shane. It was a completely different style. I couldn't wrestle as like Sugar Shane when I was the Hurricane because it didn't complement the character. It didn't complement that gimmick. And, they get too out of it. Like, the style you work has to complement the gimmick you portray.
Of course.
And so I kind of had to wrestle down a little bit, if you understand what I'm saying, as the Hurricane. That's what made the gimmick work.
No relation to you, but he says he could be your cousin. My good friend Randy Helms said if Shane could pick any job beside wrestling, what would he have loved to have done? Do you have another passion?
Yeah, it's something that I would love to have done is been an artist, has been a comic book artist, but I have no talent at it. So that would have been difficult.
Well, you could have taken lessons from Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, I watched Jerry. We do comic fans together, and I'm just amazed by it. And I got quite a few artist friends, and man, just to sit there and take what's in the mind and put it on paper and be able to create the stuff that they create, man, I'm amazed by that. And I look at some of the great artists of today, and then you see like some of the classical works like the Mona Lisa, and I'm like, why is that little piece of art worth millions of dollars, and it doesn't look anywhere as good as some of the stuff the guys are putting out today.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that would be the one. That's the one thing I wish I could do. And it's funny because I go to Comic Cons and I meet these artists, and a lot of them are wrestling fans, and they want to do what I do, and I'm like, well, I would love to do what you do. So there's this mutual admiration society that goes on, but it's very cool, very respectful.
There was a song when I was a little kid called Mutual Admiration Society. Did you know that?
I did not.
Oh, let me give you a minute of it. We belong to a mutual admiration society, my baby and me. I think it's from a Broadway show. Anybody out there know it? Just type it in here. Hurricane Helms, thank you so very much. And where will you be at WrestleCon this year?
Without a doubt, I was the first guy booked last year. I don't know if you ever go to the WrestleMania brunch. I've done it a couple years in a row. I host it, and we bring guys up, and they're fans that have breakfast with the guys, and we bring, there'll be different wrestling personalities, and we bring them up and have conversations and tell everybody our WrestleMania moments and memories. And we've knocked it out of the park a couple years in a row. So as soon as I was done, as soon as I stepped off the stage, so I've been booked ever since last year.
All right. Well, we will see you at WrestleCon. Thank you so much for being the first interview guest here on the new After Chat podcast. And like I'm telling everybody here, this is just sitting back in one of the rooms here in Apter's Alley and just hanging out. Have a couple of things planned. Other than that, we call friends like you, Hurricane Helms.
Well, man, I wish you a lot of success. The podcast biz is a lot more difficult than people realize.
It is.
Keep sticking with it.
And this is a video one. We did a regular podcast for many, many, many weeks, and that field is so crowded. I said, you know what? I want to talk to the people directly. So we'll do it. Well, it can't be face to face because I can't see them, but hopefully they can enjoy what they're seeing here. And if I'm looking over here, it's because that's the speaker that the hurricane is coming out of. What would you like to leave everybody with? Final thought.
Final thoughts. Just follow me at ShaneHelms.com. I am super busy. I think I've got 40 dates on the calendar right now for 2018. Almost said 17. And I work hard. I'm still just as active as ever been, and I have fun. So you come see me, you're going to have a good time.
We can tell. No matter where you can see Hurricane Helms, go and see him because he's a great competitor. And even more than that, he's a great guy. Thank you for your friendship. And
you too, buddy. You too.
We'll see you at the matches. All right. Hurricane Helms. And again, none of this that we're doing here is seriously planned. So, and again, I will be answering some of your questions, but we've got a format here, that magazine format that people like and people have asked for. So let's go to the magazine here. One of the things that everybody loved in the magazines was the rankings. Yeah, rankings of all the different companies. And every week we'll be doing some rankings, some different companies, some of the same companies. But this week on SmackDown, I saw the very first edition of the WWE SmackDown rankings. Very different. Daniel Bryan had explained that it was kind of put together by the wrestlers on SmackDown, and no one could vote for themselves. Must have been a battle royal back there. So I want to read you the top 10 of SmackDown as broadcast on this week's SmackDown. And again, I know you have lots of questions. Later on in this video podcast, we'll do a letters column, and that's where I'm going to look at your questions. So we're going to do the countdown to number one on SmackDown. And again, these are the SmackDown rankings as brought up on SmackDown from Daniel Bryan. Number 10 was Ty Dillinger. Number 9, and I thought this was a really low ranking for him, was RKO out of nowhere, Randy Orton. Number 8 was Becky Lynch. Now, when we did the rankings in the magazines, we never mixed the guys and the girls. It was always the guys or the girls separately. So that kind of threw me for a loop. Number 7, this was another surprise, was the Usos, a tag team in there. Number 6, also a tag team, the New Day. Number 5, back to a normal rating, the United States champion, the glorious Bobby Roode. Number 4, Naomi, another lady in the rankings there. Number 3, and I was really surprised at this one. Number 3, Shinsuke Nakamura. And I'll tell you why I was surprised at this one, because number 2, and no knock to her because she's great, is Charlotte Flair. I think Nakamura deserved the number 2 spot because he's the top contender for the man who is number 1, and that is, of course, the WWE World Champion, AJ Styles. So that's their rankings. So what I did is I went back into my trusty cell phone and I dialed good old T-Volts. Back in the podcast days, Travis Volts did the WWE rankings for us on the podcast. So I called him and I said, would you consider doing the WWE Monday Night Raw ratings for this week? And he said yes. So let me get to that file here. And let's check out T-Volts' WWE Monday Night Raw Top 10. All right? Give a listen here. We listen to everything together.
Thanks, Bill, and howdy, fans. This is old T-Volts back on the audio with your top 10 for Raw. Let's get right into it.
All right.
Way at the top at number 10, or should I say cracking the top 10, is none other than Apollo Crews.
Now, I think that's a good choice because I think Apollo Crews is really starting to find his niche.
Who has had a stellar outing most recently against The Miz.
Yeah.
Way up to number 9 is none other than the Big Red Machine Kane. He did not come out on top in the Royal Rumble, but he was in the world title picture.
Yeah, he is still a contender for the Universal title.
Number 8 is Bray Wyatt, and his rival is at number 7, who does not want to be deleted. That's Woken Matt Hardy. Up to the number 6 spot, reunited, and it feels so good with the club. We're talking about Finn Balor. And all the way up to number 5, who wants to walk with Elias?
Now, some of the questions that I'm going to look at later, I'd like to know what you people think of Elias. Every time I see him, just his looks, he looks like Randy Savage. And I saw him come up at a spot show, the top rope with an elbow a few weeks ago. Scary how much he looks like him.
If there's one guy that's turning heads on the Raw brand, it's Elias, who comes at you at number 5.
Walk with him.
The big dog in the yard is in the number 4 hole, Roman Reigns. And of course, the monster among men is holding strong in the number 3 position, Braun Strowman.
Now, I haven't heard these rankings before, I thought Braun Strowman would be in the number 2 position, T-Volts.
And that leaves the number 2 spot to the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz.
I saw The Miz around Royal Rumble weekend, and I went over to him, and I told him, because I never told him this before, what an incredible job he's doing as a professional wrestler now. So I'm very impressed with the Miz.
And of course, your number 1 person in the T-Volts top 10 for Raw is none other than your Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar.
All right.
Hey, there's some guys missing. Where is Samoa Joe? And how about Big Cass? Is it about time he comes back for injury? And speaking of injury, it sounds like Jason Jordan is going to be gone for a while. Hey, fans, if you want to hear more from me, you can hit me up on the Twitter. I am at PW Paper Champion, or on the Facebook at facebook.com/PW Paper Champion. Until then, thank you, Bill, and back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, T-Volts, and hope you you people enjoyed the rankings. But what about the SmackDown rankings to include women and tag teams? Don't you think that they should have 3 categories, the male contenders, the tag teams, and the ladies? To me, that is totally fair. Okay, let's move on right now to the next part of our magazine here, and that would be the headlines. So one of the top headlines that would make a cover story here is that Ronda Rousey wants to be part of the DNA of WWE. Now, a lot of people have asked me, what do I think about Ronda Rousey in the WWE? It seems like it's turning into WWE MMA, sort of, with Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar and so many people coming in from MMA. I think it's good. I really do, only because it's going to bring more eyes and attention to the WWE. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, what do they need more attention for? They're growing their business pretty regularly, and I think Ronda Rousey will become one of their franchise stars. People have asked me, how long do I think Rousey will stay there? She's allegedly signing a long-term deal, so let's hope it works out for both of them. I've met her in the past, and what a sweetheart. She didn't knock me out. She knocked me out, yeah, with her looks, not with her fists. Triple H will be taking over the main reins of 205 Live. 205 Live going to be making some sort of changes, and I love that Rockstar Spud is there now. I always call it WWE NXTNA. I've called it for NXT, but 205 Live with Rockstar Spud as Drake Maverick. I think it's a great idea. And a lot of people were very surprised that the WWE broadcast team acknowledged that he was indeed Rockstar Spud in another company. I think that's great that they're doing these kind of things. Do you remember the days when WWE wouldn't recognize anything? Like when Harley Race would come in there, they wouldn't say that he was the National Wrestling Alliance champion. No one had a past when they came into the WWF days, so to say. I'm glad they recognize, they'll say when a guy has been in Japan. They'll even mention New Japan Pro Wrestling. So let's go. Another headline here. Jason Jordan is out, as Travis Volts mentioned in his ratings report. And he's out with a neck injury. Should be back in a few weeks, supposedly. We're still trying to get information on that. Are we getting closer to seeing Daniel Bryan come back to WWE in the capacity of a competitor? Did you notice this past week on SmackDown that Shane McMahon made some sort of a comment about there's someone else who deserves a title shot besides Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and it was pretty obvious he was talking about Daniel Bryan. So it's something I would really love to see, just like you would see. But again, his health comes first. He's got to be checked out. If I were he and I just wanted to try this out, I'd go to one of the independents. I'm sure any independent would like to have him. Go back to Ring of Honor. There, I'm sure they'd love to have him, and feel it out, see what goes on here. Okay, so one of the things that I love is history. Yeah, and quite some time ago, a writer for a website, a great website called thegorillaposition.com, got in touch with me, and he's been doing these this day in history on thegorillaposition.com now for a long time. So I said to him, you know what? I have a lot of old classic audio interviews. See, look at this. You know what this is? It's a cassette recorder. If you go into like Best Buy and you ask them if they have a cassette recorder, generally what will happen is the person who is a lot younger than cassette recorder people will say, is that like an MP3 player? But these are what audio cassettes looked like, and these are what I recorded all my interviews for the magazines and for my old radio show in New York on here. So I said, you know what? I've got an interview this week, a classic interview that I want to play with a man who is very important to me, because if it wasn't for this particular wrestler, I might not have gotten my break with the magazines. Way back in the early 1971, Eddie Graham brought Jack Brisco to Madison Square Garden. Stanley Weston, the publisher, who was also my mentor, said to me, if you can get an interview with this Jack Brisco guy, you've got a job. And you know what? I went to Madison Square Garden and I got the interview and I got the job. So through the years, I followed the career of Jack Brisco, not just because he gave me the interview, but he was an incredible professional wrestler. And I figured this week for our classic interview, I would dig up an interview with Jack Brisco that was taped in Florida, probably 1974, and we can listen to it together. But before I do that, I asked Ryan Bowman from the Gorilla position, could you record something about that happened in February of any year about Jack Brisco? And he sent me a file, and I'm going to play that file, and then we're going to listen to the Jack Brisco interview, and then we'll talk a little more, and then I want to answer your questions right here on the APTER MAG, the only video podcast that acts like a wrestling magazine. Let's go to Ryan Bowman.
I'm Ryan Bowman for OneWrestling.com, and thank you for joining us as we take a look back at the month of February in pro wrestling history. On February 1st, 2010, former two-time NWA World Champion Jack Brisco passed away due to complications following heart surgery. Raised in Blackwell, Oklahoma, alongside his brother and fellow wrestler Gerald, Jack would go on to compete at Oklahoma State University, where in 1965 he became the first ever Native American winner of the NCAA Wrestling Championship. Brisco would gain fame professionally, wrestling in Florida, Georgia, and the Mid-Atlantic region. In the Sunshine State, the Briscos would engage in a series of battles with Dory and Terry Funk as the two sets of wrestling brothers began a rivalry that would last for over 2 decades. After many regional titles, Brisco was chosen by the NWA Board of Directors to replace Dory Funk Jr. as the world champion.
Okay, so that's the key point here. Thank you, Ryan Bowman. There's a key point here that Jack Brisco was picked to become the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion. So right now we're going to unplug from the speaker. We're going to take the cassette recorder here and plug it into the speaker system here. Again, this is like done in the raw here. This is how I used to do a podcast. And let's listen to a few minutes together. Let's sit back and listen to a few minutes of Jack Brisco, the National Wrestling Alliance World Champion. And this was taped in Florida with me interviewing him in 1974.
Okay, this is Bill Apter, and we're speaking here to Jack Brisco. Jack, you won the title quite a while ago. For years, your biggest dream was winning the World Heavyweight title. You've got it now. Does it mean the exact same thing to you, or has it fulfilled the dreams that Jack Brisco had hoped it would?
Well, of course, when you're dreaming about achieving something, it's always, I suppose you always have a rosier picture than what the real reality is. And it is the same as I thought it would be, except it's a lot more work and a lot more time.
A lot of grind, isn't it? Okay, now that hard grind sort of led to your downfall in Japan. What was the reason for the loss against Shoei Baba?
Well, normally when you travel halfway around the world like that, you usually have a day or two of rest at least. And I had made a formal commitment in Richmond, Virginia to wrestle. A match would put me a day late into Japan, so I flew all the way from Richmond, Virginia to Tokyo, and was in Tokyo 2 hours, and had to catch on a plane and fly for another 2 hours there in Japan, and just got there just a few hours before a match. So I'd been traveling right close to 30 hours when I got into the ring to wrestle, and I was just completely exhausted, had no reaction at all. And my mind was working, but my body wasn't.
Okay, now, Jack, a lot of wrestlers have worked up a defense for the figure four leg lock, a hold you counted on for many of your victories.
She's big hold.
Since so many guys have worked up this defense for it, have you stopped using it, or are you working out some sort of a defense to their defense?
Well, of course, when I started traveling around the country before I'd won the championship, I was able to win a lot of matches with the figure four. But as you said, of course, everybody started realizing the hold I was using, and different people started figuring out defenses for it, and everybody started copying them. And pretty soon it got to the point where I couldn't, it was damn near impossible to get anybody in the
Let me know if you're
four.
enjoying listening to
All
these
along, I
classic
relied on a lot of other
interviews.
holds also, so I just switched my attentions into perfecting other maneuvers.
Okay, Jack, could you pinpoint what Dory Funk Jr.'s problem is now, why he can't upset you? He's just lost to Harley Race. Do you think this is something psychological that's got him down, for example, in the case of you and Paul Jones years ago?
Definitely it is. I'm sure that he's not as active as he was before. You know, after being there once and for so long as he did and have such a big layoff and then trying to make a comeback, it's awfully hard. And you just don't have that burning desire that you had before.
All right, now, a lot of fans, and I've got to tell you, have written in letters calling Jack Brisco a chicken champion and stuff like that. They say in places, especially Amarillo, Texas, and I think I know what you're going to say, that you run from a guy like Terry Funk. You run out of the ring, you try and get away from him. Are you afraid of hometown decisions in a case like that?
Well, I'm not afraid of hometown decisions. I'm always cautious of the referees that they pick for the matches. But in the case in Amarillo with the Funks you're talking about, I don't run from anybody, and I don't run from especially a referee. There's times when you get in situations where the best thing to do is just call timeout, and that's what I do. I don't run.
Okay, Jack Brisco on our classic interview this week. So one thing you people don't know about, and this has been a big secret unless you've seen my one-man show based on my book, Is Wrestling Fixed? I Didn't Know It Was Broken. And, hang on. And there's also the audio version of the book. If you like to hear my stories and a lot of imitations that I do on here, you can go to Amazon or audible.com and get the audio version of the book. But one thing you people don't know, and let me get this, is that I have a book that is not for sale. It's a thick book, this thick, and it's a private book. And I've decided to share some of the pictures here, one per week, with all of you. When people used to come up to the office to have photos taken, wrestlers or managers, or when I was out on the field with the portable studio, for some reason, one wrestler decided it would be funny to have a picture taken of him doing something that eventually made Stone Cold Steve Austin extremely famous, and that was flipping me the bird. And I collected pictures of wrestlers, boxers, and celebrities all flipping the bird. And again, I figured once a week, when we're doing the APTER MAG, I am going to show you one of those classic photos. This one was taken in Atlanta, Georgia, by me. And it's a very young Paul E. Dangerously. Paul Heyman. Yeah, same guy. Paul Heyman flipping the bird. There's his famous telephone. And he really enjoyed this. Notice, people talk about my hairline and the lack of it and my comb over. Notice the hair on Paulie, but more so notice the venom with the finger that he was giving me. So again, this was one of my favorite finger pictures from my finger book. And again, the book will never be published. Probably never be. Actually, in my book is Wrestling Fixed. I didn't know it was broken. There is one finger picture in there, and it's Nature Boy Buddy Rogers giving me the finger. I got along with Paul Heyman really, really well, and but he wanted to do this. And thank you, Paulie, for cooperating with my finger book. I love getting things in the mail. Today, in the mail, there is a man who did a graphic novel about Andre the Giant, which was a New York Times bestseller, and his name is Box Brown. And he's come out with a new book, and I can't believe that a large part of this book has me in it. This is the name of the book. Is This Guy for Real? And it's the Unbelievable Andy Kaufman by Box Brown. And it's a graphic novel where it's done like a comic book. And I don't know if you can see this here, but you see me on the pages on this page in my old office with Andy Kaufman calling me and asking me wrestling questions while he was the star of Taxi. So now I don't know if you know this, and again, it's in my book, but I'm the guy who introduced Andy Kaufman to Jerry Lawler, and that put the key in the ignition and started that incredible feud of that. It was a cult feud, and it's still going on Comedy Central, and everyone still talks about it. So get the book by Box Brown. Also want to mention, people say to me, when am I going back to the magazines? I have been, for the past 3 or 4 months, a columnist for Total Wrestling magazine. It's a magazine that's put out in the United Kingdom, but you can get copies. Go to their Facebook page, Total Wrestling. I do a column called the APTER Files. And this month, I profile the guy with the finger, Paul Heyman. Okay, so let's get into the mailbag now and some of your questions. And Teddy Two Stoned Heart said, Bill, who would win a fight between Vince Russo or Jim Cornette? If Cornette had the racket, Cornette would win. And I don't think Russo would win. Let me just fix the comb over here. I don't think Russo would win at all because Vince Russo is not, he's not a physical type of person. He doesn't like to get involved in physicality. His weapon is words, and so is Cornette's. But I would pick Jim Cornette in a mouth death match between the two of them. Let's see. Let's going down and looking for your questions. Respect to you, Bill, from Luke Geddes, Hurricane, one love from New Zealand. Thank you, Hurricane, for being on here. I do have a special guest lined up for next week, but I don't want to say it until it's definitely confirmed. Let's take a look at some more of your questions. Bill, did you see the Swanton dive that Kevin Owens did Tuesday night on SmackDown? When was the last time you saw a guy with that kind of body type do a move like that? I can't recall. Kevin Owens is amazing the way he moves. Absolutely amazing. Dennis Bridgewater says, word is Bond 2K Sports should do ECW ring with no stairs and commentary tables around the ring on ECW. Okay, that's fine. Let's see some more of your questions. MD Song, I feel with the Cruiserweight division will be brought up big again by Ricochet. I totally agree with you. I've enjoyed seeing Ricochet's work for so many years. He's a real true ring technician, and yes, he will be a definite boom to the Cruiserweight division. By the way, even though he's not the Cruiserweight, I can't wait to see EC3 do his thing in WWE as well. Travis Volt said, "You've been waiting for me to sing. I already did today. Thank you very much." Let's see. Hi, Bill. How are you? Says Mick Paul. What were your thoughts on the Hulk Hogan war bonnet in the late 80s? I still have an old magazine where they talk about it. It was cool. It got you to pay attention, which is what they wanted you to do. John Osting says, I love Elias. John Osting does several reports for us on OneWrestling.com every week. Mick Paul says, what happened to Jason Jordan? Again, he's out with an injury, neck injury. Hopefully he'll be back soon. He was just starting to get some momentum. Lombardi, 1969. What is your opinion of New Japan Pro Wrestling having a card on Access TV? They've been on Access TV for quite a long time. I think it's great. I love watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. When I was growing up in New York, we had UHF antennas to see wrestling from Los Angeles and Florida. We could never see the action of Japan, taped, live, or anything. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling being on Access TV. And Access TV actually has some good concerts on there pretty regularly. Let's see. A lot of talk about video games. What do you people think about the Facebook Mixed Match Challenge Live and the new team of Goldust and Mandy Rose? I think they need to bring that to TV. I think Mandy Rose is a very good, real compliment to Goldust, and giving Goldust some more life. Travis Volts, who's your current favorite wrestler and why? Still Mil Mascaras. I'm impartial, T Volts. I can't really, being in the wrestling business as a reporter and broadcaster, it's hard to say who a favorite is. I don't want to offend someone by saying, hey, Bill, I thought I was your favorite. Yardapy 99, Bill, I live in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. Did you ever come here for Maple Leaf Wrestling television tapings for the NWA or WWF back in the day? I was in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens probably every 2 or 3 months during the heyday of the original Sheik, not the Iron Sheik, but the original Sheik, and I loved it. I used to love, and I don't know if they still have this, they had, coming out of the dressing room, they had this long runway that would lead to the ring that was above the fans, and it was very cool to see the wrestlers come out on that runway. No, wrestling entrances from when I was a kid to today, when you look at people like Bruno Sammartino, the only music they came out to was 22,000 fans at Madison Square Garden yelling out, Bruno, Bruno, Bruno. And today you look at something like Bobby Roode's Glorious. Whew, I mean, I love it, but it's not like it used to be. So what I'd like to do right now before we leave for the hour that we're spending, I'd like to check out some of the press releases that have been sent to me by various sources. This one by WWE, go behind the scenes of WrestleMania 34 in a new book, Creating the Mania, an inside look at how WrestleMania comes to life by John Robinson, will be coming out August 2018 by ECW Press. So that's good. Make sure we look out for that. Glenn Moore, who is the producer of the Jerry Lawler podcast, sent this very, very interesting press release on the most recent episode of Dinner with the King, which it's a great podcast. Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore, who's also his co-hosts talk about the Royal Rumble and what goes on to the commentary aspect of the match. But what's interesting about here is the King talks about Triple H making a joke about the sleeping photo from Raw 25. Remember there was a photo online that looked like Lawler and JR were sleeping during their commentary duties or the downtime on Raw 25. So Lawler said to hear that the first time he saw Triple H at the Royal Rumble, he said, "Hey, King," and Jerry Lawler said, "Hey, Hunter," and Triple H said, "Try to stay awake out there tonight." Lawler said, "Okay," so it's become kind of a joke. But for more about that, check out that incredible weekly podcast, Dinner with the King. One last press release, another book, DK Publishing, that's published a lot of really good and exciting pro wrestling books, is excited to announce the upcoming release of the WWE Ultimate Superstar Guide, the second edition, which will come out on March 6th, 2018. So make sure you look for that. Let's see right now. Yardy99 said they got rid of the ramp at Maple Leaf Gardens. Travis Folt said, how big will New Japan be in the U.S. this year? They sold out their road show coming up in Los Angeles like within 20 minutes. I'm hoping to see New Japan Pro Wrestling tour. And I know we all want to see some of their superstars in person. So, fans, that's it for this issue of the APTER Mag. Thank you so much for joining in. And we will be live again at between 7 and 7:15 p.m. next Thursday on YouTube. And what I did today, I hit the YouTube button to go live, and it just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. But I want to do this on YouTube. Our classic interview next week will be a never-before-heard interview with the former tag team partner of Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, if you will, Dick Murdoch. I don't know if any of you have ever heard a classic interview, but I've got it with Dick Murdoch, but I've got it right here queued up for next week. Don't forget, my book is Wrestling Fixed. I Didn't Know It Was Broken, on sale at Amazon or your favorite bookstore. You can also get the audio version. And on February 24th, wonderful Willie Bill Apter will be in Waynesboro, Virginia, at Waynesboro High School for the Night of the Horseman. It's Ric Flair's birthday. The show's sold out 4 weeks in advance, but maybe you can find a way in. I will be there. And of course, I will be daily at WrestleCon for awesome wrestling entertainment. And I'll be at the same table as Ric Flair, J.J. Dillon, and some of the other horsemen. So for the APTER Mag, edition number 1, hope you enjoyed the interview with the Hurricane, the rankings, this day in history, actually this month in history by Ryan Bowman, and support him on thegorillaposition.com. And I hope you enjoyed me answering your questions, and all questions are legal. And you know what I always say to sign off? You got to do it this time too. See you. Oh, wait a minute. Don't forget to catch Big Ray every Monday night, his live Raw score, and follow all our writers on OneWrestling.com and subscribe to OneWrestlingVideo.com. It's free. It really is. Bill Apter, I'll see you at the matches.